record everybody. So if you do have secrets, please be noted and notified. I am recording now. Okay, so you said the group of musicians with whom you do a crossover between?
Yeah, it's the organizer of this project is actually a medieval music specialist, and she organizes concerts that involve medieval, Renaissance, Baroque music, and also contemporary, either classical contemporary or contemporary as far as could be pop, jazz, rock and roll, electronic, really anything. And very often these concerts are directed, so they're staged. There are costumes and lights and all sorts of other tricks. And so with this group, we perform in different places, but we are centered in Basel. And with the other project, what else? There's a jazz pianist named Michael Wolny, with whom I play a project of keyboard music. We play all the keyboard instruments that we can come up with. So he's obviously master of piano. I mostly sit at the harpsichord, but we also play harmonium, celesta, glockenspiel,
Oh yeah, glockenspiel. I love that.
Anything you can come up with that has keyboard. So
I saw that you play the melodium in one.
That's right. Recorded one track with melodium. So anything I can play, anything that makes sounds, I usually do. I can play a little bit of guitar, but not well enough to perform. So I stick with keyboards. And so all these different projects keep me busy, and maybe the best thing about it is that it keeps me constantly challenged, because it's not limited to one repertoire or one period, but it constantly demands versatility of styles, and I always feel like I have to use everything I've ever learned about music. So be it classical or Baroque, improvisation, jazz, pop, electronic, everything that I know about music, I end up using in these projects. So I'm very fortunate for that.
Okay. I'm going to run very fast through all the things that I've prepared for tonight, so that when we are ready for them, they'll be ready for us. So we'll keep talking, but I'll just keep going through the different parts of music and video that I have prepared according to the things that you have sent me, so that we don't have to wait for it. It will wait for us when we are ready. And we will also do a little bit of gymnastics here. In other words, when you are talking, we will. I will give you you'll be the host and presenter, so that we see you in recording and not me. And when I want to go to a recording, I will ask you and take the presentership and the host back, okay? So I'm going to change with you just now. Just a second. You cannot understand how complicated this whole is. And now, Tamar, whether you know it or you don't, here you are. You are now the presenter and the star. You were always the star of the evening. Okay. Good evening, everybody. And we are 2 minutes before the official beginning of the quite outstanding evening that we have tonight with Tamar Halperin. Tamar, good evening to you, and thank you for being here with us. I would like, first of all, to ask you to forgive me, because I decided on my own about the name of this evening. I called it Music, a Love Story, because from everything you've told me and everything I saw that you did, it involves music on its entirety. It's not Baroque or classical or romantic or impressionist or minimalist. I'll stop here with all the ists. It's music, and would you tell us a little bit about? Let's do it in a way I don't like to do it, but with you, I think I feel like doing it.
Mm-hmm.
When was the first time that you hit something just to listen to the sound of it?
Excuse me, repeat the question, please. When's the first time?
That you hit something or somebody just for the sound of it, not because you were angry or something.
That I hate.
Just for the music of it.
You said hate?
You hit something.
Huh.
No. Hit. H-I-T. Hagen.
I
Mm.
don't get the word, sorry.
Hit, to hit.
H-E-T.
If you hit.
Yeah?
H-I-T.
H-I-T. Oh, you know, my first memory, I would say, would be a tennis ball and a racket.
Did you do it for the sound?
My parents and my older brother suddenly got very involved playing tennis, and I was by far younger than anybody, so they gave me a small racket and sent me to play against the wall on my own while they were doing the real thing. And so I was playing tennis against the wall, and it had this rhythm. You know, the ball hits the wall and then bounces on the floor, and then it hits the racket, and you can get different rhythms this way. And so I did it. I enjoyed so much the sound, the rhythm, of the tennis racket and the ball against the wall that I became a very good tennis player actually because I practiced forehand just to get the rhythms right, you know.
But it's a good thing that you did not stop with tennis and followed the sound and the rhythm as well. And how did the love?
I guess the word hit that you used somehow felt it brought.
I wanted to be aggressive. I wanted to be aggressive. I mean, we always need a little bit of aggression here in New Sofia. Everybody's so nice and smiling all the time, and I have cats that are climbing on my feet and they're hurting me, and I want to scream and I cannot because I have to be nicely educated and smile at everybody.
Right.
Get out! That was the cat. Okay. Anyhow, so okay, so. You actually, I understand that you were quite a good tennis player, no?
Yeah, actually, I stayed with tennis. I mean, while they were all playing each other, I got very good playing the wall, so I got good tennis technique early on. And then I started training quasi-professionally as a child for many hours every day of the week until I was about 14, 15.
Wow.
Tournaments, and I was very devoted, used to go to the tennis court before school to hit serves and practice my backhand. And so it was quite serious, but then it hit a point where to get forward and get better at it, I sort of had to give up everything else, stop school and stop music and get away from my family and just do tennis professionally, which was somehow didn't feel right for me. One thing that didn't feel right was to give everything up. And the second thing is that I don't think I'm really meant to be a competitive athlete because I love playing tennis and I still love the rhythm and the sound of the ball hitting the ground, but the concept of beating somebody and winning and losing and all these things, it's not for me really. I think that's why I prefer music, is because there is no true competition in art. It's there's really space. There's enough room for everybody. So I think that's much more like fits more my temperament.
Well, I don't know if there's not competition in art. You know, the whole story, which was not a true story, of course, but a very tasty story of Salieri and Mozart. Although this is not a true story, but there are a lot of stories of jealousy and.
I think in the moment, in the immediate present, of course, there's competition. We're human, and we always want to be better than anybody else, I suppose, at least the people who are ambitious. And on high levels, in any field, whether it's music or visual arts or whatever, of course there's competition. But I think later history tells that there is enough room because, I mean, is there competition between Bach and Mozart? Of course not. Is there competition between Van Gogh and Rubinstein? I don't think so. I think I'm happy to have recordings of both. I'm happy to be playing masterpieces by Bach or Mozart, and the judgment is not competitive, you know? So in that sense, I think there's enough room for everybody in the arts.
No, I'm sure that there's enough room for everybody. I'm not sure that every artist feels that anybody else is not taking up exactly that spot that was meant to be his. You know, I have been in the field of arts.
Well, you can be a profound, wonderful athlete, but if you don't hit the right ball in the right moment to the right spot, you lose, and so you know it's useless. So there's really room for one person to be number one, and that's it. I think in art there's room for not just room for more people, but there's room for development. And so with time, I think artists can get better. There is, I think, elements of life experience, of artistic experience. Sometimes some people are early bloomers, but other people take their time to mature. And I think, at least I feel that I really need a lot of time to cook. So piano was really a better choice for me than any kind of sport.
Well, first of all, I must, we had as a guest here in our program somebody that I hope to introduce you to one of these days, Andreas Scholl. And he said something that is with me all the time. He said that he always was trying to sing with people that were better than him. And after I heard him, you know, for the second 5 minutes, I started believing everything he said because of his honesty. But I must say, I spent a lot of my years with artists, you know, one way or another. And it's not everybody that has the approach, I'm here to learn. I'm here to gain more and more for myself. The thing that I found with many artists, and I'm not talking about musicians per se, I'm talking about creative people who find, you know, the reward not only as money reward, but as the thing on the shoulder that says, you're so good. I found that with many of them, that taste of the prima donna was very important for the way they were built. It was very important for the way, not the least of them was, you know, Arthur Rubinstein, who was had a piano teacher until the latest years of his life, but still, you could speak about everybody else, but at the end you had to say, and you saw in his eyes that he waited for you to say it, he was almost as good as you, maestro. And how do you feel about it? Is music a way to get better, learn more, or is music something to reach out, grasp whatever you can, and be the queen of the world?
I think it's very clear for me. I belong with the first group. In fact, the whole business of performance, the attention that comes with music, is something that I'm still coming to terms with, because the thing that really grabs me in music and the life as a musician is exactly that part of always being a beginner in a sense. You know, I could master one work by playing it 100 million times, and of course then I realized there are other ways to do it, and I still haven't explored everything that there is to it, and then there's a new piece of music that I never heard before, and it's time to learn. And even for my concert next week, I have to learn new repertoire. It's completely new, so it's the same challenge all over again, and it's always the same question: Can I do it? Can I learn it? And then there's the joy of discovering new things in the new music and discovering new techniques and having new ideas. And also, I like what Andrea said about trying to work with people who are better than you. I find that through music, I meet people who are so wonderfully gifted, intelligent, capable, experienced, and I feel like I'm constantly learning from these people. So I know rationally that part of the game is for me to go in the front of the stage and present myself and take all the attention because that's what the business is about. But I am actually much more interested in what's happening until that moment of the performance because that's really what the life is about. It's this constant learning, meeting people, getting ideas from them, and even if not meeting people necessarily face to face, it could be through a recording. I could pick up a recording from, I don't know, beginning of the century and get a fabulous idea or some kind of sound that I think is intriguing. And that is like being always a student. And it's something that I personally like very, very much. I think that's probably the thing I like the best about being a musician.
Okay, Tamar, I'm going to ask you to give the presentership back to me just for a second, because what we're going to try to do is we're going to, okay, yes, it should work now. I would like to get us to hear the third piece, which is I Will Give My Love an Apple.
Mm-hmm.
And please tell us a little bit about this piece.
Yeah, it's a very old English folk song. In fact, there's no date exactly when it appeared, but it sort of dates back to late Renaissance, so I would say early 16th century. What we have of the song is the text and the melody. I believe that the melody came before the text and that the text then came later, but maybe it's the other way around. In this particular recording, I'm playing the piano, and I also did the arrangement for the song, which means that I put the harmonies to it. I mean, when you have a melody, in principle, you could give it 100 million different harmony possibilities. So I could have, for example, I harmonized this melody in a minor key, but I believe that there's also a way to put it in a major key and or give it a completely different atmosphere. Anyway, so I did the arrangement for this piece. I put the harmonies together and also the piano part. And in this recording, I'm playing the piano, and my partner Andreas Schroed is singing. We recorded it for a TV program in Korea about 6 months ago.
Okay. Just one thing. Christopher Marlowe, who was a contemporary of Bill Shakespeare, in one of his sonnets, by the way, he was a fantastic playwright and an outstanding poet. In one of his sonnets, he puts in, I did not and will not give my apple my love. So that song probably existed before he lived, and he lived at the end of the 16th and the beginning of the 17th century. So it's more or less, it doesn't date the song, but it tells us more or less a little bit about it. So here we go. I Will Give My Love an Apple. Tamar Halperin and Andreas Scholl and all the people of Korea and you, Sophia, here to listen. That was lovely. Let me change places with you again. Okay. It'll be just a second. Okay. This should be it. Yes. Okay. That was really lovely, but I must say that I do detect in the arrangement that you did something rather modern. It's more like uh, an American folk song. It's which gives it a completely new key. It kind of opens it up to the large prairies, and here goes the man who says, it's like a feeling. I mean, this is what I got, a feeling there's nothing, just the heart of my love, and I will give her everything I have, and that will give me the key to that palace, to my heart. And because of that arrangement that you did, the prairies are so endless, and so there's no house. We can only believe that the only house is the palace, the heart of the beloved. Very lovely. Let's go back a little bit. Yeah, go ahead.
Something that I sort of had in mind, it's more subconscious, but I think it was playing a part a little bit in there, is that there's something like perpetuum mobile in the arrangement. It's like it doesn't really begin and it doesn't really end. There's no grandiose beginning, and there are no big chords to signify the ending of the song. It's just this kind of, like you say, prayer is something flat and ongoing, without beginning, without end. Somehow, I think to me it has to do not so much with the text, but more with this endlessness of the folk song itself, the folk melody. To me, it's something that doesn't have a date. It wasn't composed one day and then disappeared another. It's not a pop song like, I don't know, the latest Lady Gaga hit that you can say, okay, in February 2010, everybody listened to this song and then it completely disappeared. This kind of music, to me, is on a different plane that is very, very wide and very endless. And when we play it in concerts, I always have this image as if the music is already there and I'm just joining in. I don't make any big gestures of starting the piece. I just, the swinging is already going on and I'm just riding along. So this is something
Well, you're doing what Johann Sebastian Bach did when Friedrich asked him, Maestro, can you play so well? He says, I don't do anything. The music is in the instruments. All you need to do is just to put your hands and the music will come out. So the prairie was there in the music, and you just put your hand and all of a sudden it started blooming all around you. Let's go back a little bit. When you decided that you're not going to challenge Martina Navratilova and Steffi Graf and all the others, did you already know that you were going to be a professional musician? Or?
Oh, no. Actually, this came to me as a huge surprise, not such a long time ago. Basically, the way it happened was that I always played the piano. There was an ancient upright piano in my room that used to belong to my mother, and before that to my grandmother. It was not a particularly good instrument, but anyway, it was just there in my room. My older brother took lessons on it, and he hated it absolutely. And from the moment I remember myself, there was this piano, so I always played it, even before I started taking lessons. And it was just something that was there. In fact, never ever did I consider music as a profession. What happened actually was that I simply couldn't choose anything else to do, and I just kept on doing the music. So I was interested in medicine and in physics and in history and literature and writing. I mean, there are many, many things I like, but also many things I couldn't quite commit myself. One reason would be because committing to medicine would mean would have meant not having enough time to listen and play music. So it was more a default. Um, and then one thing led to another. I mean, I played enough hours to become good enough to then always go to the next level. My teacher proposed I go to university, and then at the university they suggested I apply to Juilliard school, and it was more like for me a way to delay time until I finally know what I want to do, and meanwhile just play music. And so a couple of years ago, actually maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, I realized that it looks like I am a musician and that this is what I'm doing. So I might as well stop looking to do other things.
You never thought about becoming an accountant?
Accountant was never an option. But,
you see, that's what you lost. That's what you lost. You thought about medicine and history and all this. Accountancy. Count the beans.
Astronaut and fire department, firefighter.
Wow.
Really.
Okay. You did not think about firefighters?
I did.
Oh, you did? Okay, good. Well,
there are many things I wanted to be, but it looks like it will
just a second. My dog has something to say. Nico. Okay, he's calm now. Sorry about that. His name is Niccolò Paganini, so every time somebody talks about the piano and not the violin, he gets very, very upset. So anyhow.
I understand.
Yeah, anyhow. Okay, so medicine kicks you out of the way. You don't go to study medicine, and you find yourself all of a sudden all alone at Juilliard. How were the years in Juilliard? How long did you stay in?
Well, I did my master's degree for 2 years. I stayed for 1 more year working as a teaching assistant. Then I took a year off. Then I came back to do my doctorate as a harpsichordist. And I stayed for 3 more years, and then on and off actually for 6 more years. So at some point I moved to Europe, but I continued my doctoral studies, so I sort of went back and forth. How were the years? I learned a lot at Juilliard. It's a very good school. I would say it's a very good school for life, even before it becomes a good school for music. It's a good school for music because it has amazing teachers, incredible facilities. I mean, basically almost every student has their own grand piano to practice on. There's an incredible library. There are many opportunities to perform in the school, but also outside in Lincoln Center. There are opportunities to collaborate with the Metropolitan Opera, with the New York Philharmonic, with the New York City Ballet. I mean, the possibilities are endless, and it's really land of opportunity. At the same time, it's very difficult because it's a collection of really talented and extremely ambitious people.
I was going to say, if you're looking for ambition,
right.
And people trying to be better than others, Juilliard is the place, isn't it?
It really is. And I think one strange thing, see, I heard many horror stories about Juilliard before I actually went there, about people putting razors between the keys of the piano. And I mean, it was never, ever like this. Actually, the people are extremely sweet and nice and eager to learn, and more than anything, I think everybody just is in love with music. But what's difficult is that very often these are people who were big stars in their local town. You know, they were the only one playing classical music or dancing or doing drama, and everybody knew them in, I don't know,
Reykjavik.
I don't know, Marysville, Nebraska. They were big stars. Suddenly they find themselves in New York City, surrounded by hundreds of people as talented or more. And I think that is a problem, to find yourself in a classroom with people who are all simply geniuses of their instruments and somehow find your place there, somehow end up knowing who you are, what you're worth, not be too intimidated on the one hand, and not become too full of yourself on the other, I think is very challenging. It's really difficult. It's not the most personal place because there are so many people and they're all so good. And I think it's easier to be there when you know very clearly what you're trying to get from the school, which of course is funny because now I think I would have an easier time. I'm older, have more experience, but most people come there when they're 18 and it's really the first life experience. So it's not easy in that sense. But I have to say, I think if I am a professional musician now, it's very much thanks to the training that I got in New York from my teachers, but I would say mostly from my colleagues, just watching them do what they do, spending hours in the practice rooms together and see how people work and what they aim at and discussing music. And I think it's just an amazing experience. And then, of course, there's New York City, which is a place where you can probably on any given day listen to any number of concerts by all the great, great performers. So also as a Juilliard student, very often we got
free tickets, yeah.
Free tickets, yeah, and master classes and meetings with the performers. So in that sense, it was just, I think, the best school for music. I have to say, though, at some point I became interested in early music, which is music before Bach. So let's say music of the 1500s, 1600s, early 1700s. And for that purpose, Juilliard is not the best school. They're better in classical and contemporary music. And that's the reason I moved to Europe. And I had a much nicer time being a student in Basel. And it's a much smaller school. The standards are probably not as high. It's not as competitive. But then the resources are there. The teachers are wonderful. The atmosphere is very amicable. And it's a kind of easy place to, it's like a greenhouse. It's an easy place to grow. There's much less pressure. There's much more time to develop. And I think in some ways it's a healthier place. But I took different things from there. And I'm happy to have had both schools, you know. I think they're opposites, and I feel like I had the best education with a combination of both.
I remember when I did my first degree in the States, in the United States. I went to Berkeley, and first of all, the cultural shock. The first time I arrived at this place, first of all, everybody told me, "Don't worry, it looks very much like Haifa. There's a mountain and there's the sea. You'll feel at home." And of course, after 48 hours of, because obviously I did not have the money for the flight ticket, so I went to Reykjavik, and I flew like 28, 30 hours, and then I drove down from Canada. Anyhow, I get there, and this fantastic atmosphere of everybody into the atmosphere learning. I'm not saying that everybody was crazy about learning. It's not that. But you felt that the kids, and we were all kids, and we were all 18, 20 years old, just sitting there on the grass with the guitars. And then, but what really changed my mind about university, because I was never sure that I wanted to go to the university. It was for me a kind of a waste of time. You know, why do I need to study in order to live? Let me live and study while I do my living. Didn't work out that way. But the first really great experience I had, I studied philosophy and the history of music, of art. And the first time that we had this professor of philosophy walk in, and he stands there, and for 5 minutes he talks in a combination of Old Greek and Latin. Now, I did understand Latin to a degree that I knew that he was talking Latin, but I had no idea what he was saying.
Yeah.
And after that, he said, "Okay, now you know what it means to be in a workshop of philosophy. Everybody thinks that you learn philosophy. No, you do philosophy." And it kind of opened my horizons to something completely different. What do you mean? You come to university to a workshop, to a laboratory, and we did have 5 hours a week of laboratories of philosophy. And I must say, I've been to many universities since, teaching, learning. I never saw that, only in the States. And I had some friends who went to Juilliard. Well, that was, 2 years before uh, Christopher Columbus decided not to go to the States anymore. And they told me a little bit similar experience. In other words, to a certain degree, they felt as if it was not all about learning. It was about being. It was about the living was a workshop. The living was a laboratory of learning through doing. Did this in some way correspond to your experience?
Oh, very much. I mean, I guess music studies is different than any other thing that you take in university, simply because you really have to do it. You don't talk about doing it, you're actually doing it. It's the one place where you have one-on-one teaching all through the studies. There's always one piano teacher or violin teacher or whatever that teaches you for a number of hours every week, one-on-one. And so it creates a very intimate relationship. And I think it's also one of the few professions where you get to university having already practiced your profession for about 15 years before you even start. Most of my colleagues began their studies age 3, 4, 5 years old. I started when I was, officially I started taking lessons when I was 5, but I was really playing the piano even before that. So, I mean, you have a lot of practical experience with music before you even begin to discuss what it is that you're actually doing. So it's a very practical thing. And Juilliard, actually, the thing that I got better at was the theoretical part. I did a lot of theory. The doctorate I got is partly in musicology and partly in performance. And so I think that answered my, let's say, academic needs, because I'm happy to play the piano, but I felt a bit ignorant, not knowing enough how to write papers, give presentations, find old manuscripts, and I was trained in doing all of that. And I'm happy that I have that, because now I can quietly just go back to playing the piano and not worry about it. Yeah,
what you see Nira doing, she's kissing our dog, so... Sorry, go ahead.
Did the dog go on the camera or not?
The dog is running around here, and sometimes he's on camera, sometimes he's without camera, but he is running down to the piano. Is just trying out. We have some problem with the high E, and so he's trying to tune it up. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
Where were we?
We were at the...
I give you an example of Juilliard's schedule. You have at least once a week meeting with your individual teacher, where, let's say, I'm working...
Did they call him a coach? Didn't they call him a coach?
Sometimes it's a coach for instrument. It's a coach or a teacher or whatever. So, let's say I'm preparing a concert of Bach, works by Bach, then I would bring some of it to the teacher, play it for him. We discuss it. We try different things. He says, this is good, this is not good, try this, try that. Usually there are a couple of hours a week of chamber music where you do ensemble with colleagues, and then you rehearse for that with them, and then we meet together and play for a coach. Same thing, getting criticism, ideas, all these things. A couple of hours a week for theory of music, history, all these things. Ear training is very important. Some basics of composition. And then the rest of the time, one is alone in one studio practicing the fingers. There's quite a bit of an athletic element to piano playing, because you have to have your fingers quick enough and well trained to hit the right notes in the right time. So this takes hours.
Something that never bothered Arthur Rubinstein. He said, hitting the right note is not as important. You don't play notes, you play music. Because, you know, he always had some false notes.
It's very true, but I think it makes much more sense once you have had your hours practicing, so you can already know the instrument, you know. There's a limit, because if the notes are so completely wrong, there's no music anymore, then it beats the point with it.
Okay. Tamar, I'll take again this terrible thing. I hope our technicians will come to a point where I don't have to do it anymore. But, okay, looks like we are there. And I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit about William Byrd, and especially about the fantasy in A minor. By the way, hi Louisa, nice to have you with us. I don't know why, but your video is not working. And I think you might have a problem. I think you came a little bit late, so the music might be, I think, no, we have no problem. Okay, so sorry. Will you tell us about...
I'm happy to tell you about William Byrd. Actually, before I tell you about William Byrd per se, I tell you the reason why I even played this piece. Actually, the thing that was pretty much a constant for me in my musical life is my fascination with Bach, Johann Sebastian. From very, very early age, I am completely in love with his music. I love playing it. I love listening to it. I always look for ways to play it. Actually, I think that's probably why I started playing the harpsichord, the cembalo, in the first place. And there was a moment a couple of years ago where it occurred to me that Bach, as amazing as he is, didn't come from nowhere. He had a musical tradition that was passed on to him through his family. He's the son of a very, very well-known musical family. And I realized that I actually didn't know a whole lot of the music that was known to Bach. And so for about a year or two, I spent my time learning repertoire that was known to Bach and that was composed earlier, obviously. And through different biographies of Bach and other sources of information, I had an idea of the composers that Bach himself studied and that influenced his own writing. And so I just simply went to the library and took the writings of these composers and went through the repertoire and tried to get a sense of what Bach knew and how much of their music is actually integrated in his own composition. And actually the thing I found surprising is that there's so much in Bach music that is in fact earlier traditions and that are simply conventions of earlier times.
But even contemporary, I mean, there's a lot of Vivaldi in Bach, and vice versa.
Oh yeah, of course, it's clear. So to me, it was very important to kind of trace Bach's musical education, so to speak, and playing this piece of William Byrd is part of that process for me. And specifically about William Byrd, I can tell you he is an English composer. He is about 150 years older than Bach. He was born in 1543, died in 1623. And the thing, he wrote all sorts of music, a lot of church music and vocal music and ensemble music and also keyboard music. And I think he's probably most known for the keyboard music. And the thing that I think is most interesting is that he wrote these super virtuoso pieces without any precedent. There was nobody, as far as I know, in history. I mean, keyboards didn't always exist. There were organs, and they were used in some way, to some extent. But in Western music, written music only really started in around 12,000, and so in the 13th century or so. And even then, the music that was written was only vocal music. And for the longest time, instrumental music was simply not notated. It doesn't mean that it didn't exist, but it was not passed on. It was just played like this. And um, there was simply no keyboard music that we know of until basically William Byrd. Um, and he suddenly published all these pieces for keyboard that employ techniques that are as virtuoso and as complicated, as complex as music that we see later in the 19th century by Liszt, by Chopin, by Rachmaninoff, Prokofiev. And if you listen to this piece, of course it's played on a harpsichord, so it's a slightly different sound. But you will see one thing that is very obvious is the rhythmic play. You have rhythms that I think are more contemporary than anything. You don't find it so much in Baroque music. It is so old that it makes it almost new, if you know what I mean, or at least you will know once you hear it. And the other thing is that his use of the keyboard is so innovative, is so full of imagination and fantasy, and it demands such control of the keyboard that I don't even know where it came from. You know, he didn't. I don't know who his teacher was and what model he copied from, but in a way, it's just boom. Um, Keyboard masterpieces comes to the world with William Byrd, and it's a fairly long piece. It starts with it's a fantasy, which means it doesn't really have a form. There are ideas that keep going. It starts pretty slow in the kind of a fugue, and then slowly it picks up. It becomes very fast and very strange, and the rhythms are very exciting, I think. And maybe we'll just listen to it.
Sure. William Byrd, by the way, sorry, go ahead. William Byrd, by the way, was not a troubadour because it did not use his voice, as far as I know, but he did go all over the British Isle, and he would tell people that he will tell them something about, I don't know, about Oxford or about Cambridge or about, if they sing to him some of their old songs. It's a story. I don't know how true it is. And the story also goes that he had something like what we would call today a pianola, something very small that he could go around with, not like an accordion or something, but that he would walk around with something like something that he could play wherever he was. And but anyhow, very interesting. Okay, William Byrd, Fantasy in A minor, played by Tamar Halperin. I think that we all join in the applause, and I will now give you back actually I wanted something else before, if you allow me.
Sure.
I would like to go to this, but first of all, I'll give you back the presentership so that you are in the middle, and I'll go down to my corner. I think this is now, yes, okay. That was very lovely, I must say. Now I understand. Somebody came to Segovia and asked him to write a transposition of William Byrd, not the fantasy. There's something else to the guitar, and he says Dowland is enough for me. I never did. I don't know that it was done for guitar or even lute. I don't think it was done. But anyhow,
too complicated.
Stefan?
It's simply too virtuoso already on the keyboard. I think would be really, really difficult on a guitar.
Yeah, but there's a lot that was written, even Spanish music. That was written for the piano and then is more known, better known, played by on the guitar. But at one point or another, I had a little bit of Schumann there. The Kinderträume, the Reverie. Yeah, because there's a kind of he lets himself go. With there's no definitive object. It just goes all over the place, and there's a lot of surprises there. Okay, and now we are in Bremen at the.
Right.
When I lived in Germany, it was still the time that they used to say yachts instead of jazz. But I believe those days are gone and forgotten. So tell us a little bit about your meeting with Michael Volney and about what we're going to hear next.
Sure. Michael Volney is a young German pianist, jazz pianist mostly. He's sort of the rising star of the jazz scene in Europe in the last couple of years. And I got a phone call one day from a friend of mine. His name is Guy Sternberg. He used to study composition at the Television University where I studied piano. Guy became a music producer who now lives in Berlin. And he asked me if I would be interested to collaborate with Michael Volney on this keyboard project. And I said, of course, I'm always interested in new things. And so I met Michael. He showed me some of his compositions. We tried them out. He was playing piano, I was playing harpsichord. And then a week later, we met in the studio. We recorded an album that's called Wunderkammer. And this album actually later won an Echo Award, so we're very happy because we weren't. It was such a strange concept to have all these. Once we recorded the album, we.
Just a minute, I'm going to give you, because otherwise in the recording people will see me all the time and it's boring. Okay. Just 2 seconds. Here we are.
Okay. Well, Hommage à Georges Braque was composed by my friend Baptiste Romain, who is a young and lovely person. He is himself a fantastic violinist, specializing in medieval music, actually. But every now and again he writes a piece of his own. And this piece was written in 2005 or 6, 2006 maybe. It's a free piece, something like 6 or 7 minutes long for harpsichord solo. Free in the sense that it doesn't have any particular form or anything. I feel that it's very much influenced by French Baroque music of the 17th century, in France, music of Louis Couperin or D'Angleterre or other composers of such, but he calls it Hommage à Georges Braque. Maybe when you hear it, you will have an idea that, actually, I prefer not to go into
names.
Visual descriptions of music. I think it will speak for itself, so I'm pretty sure when you hear it, you can have the idea why Baptiste associated this piece with Georges Braque. The piece is, it has 3 sections. I think it would be nice to hear the last section, so with your permission, I'm going to skip a little bit ahead, so we can start right here. Okay, I'm going to play.
You're the boss now.
It's also
you are the boss now.
So the quality is not the best, but here goes.
It's really very, very lovely. I'm not going to try to explain, obviously, the Braque, la connexion de Georges Braque, but what I do feel that what I find quite extraordinary about this piece is, in my book, it's written for the clavicembalo. There's no way that you can play it on the piano because the dynamism that you have in the clavicembalo allows you to do, all the overtones, overtones on one, when you hit the F, and then all of a sudden you hear all the thirds and the quintet and everything. It's quite amazing. It's very, very beautiful.
Harpsichord piece per se. It's really not meant at all for the piano or any other instrument, and I think it really works on the harpsichord. I always am looking for new music for the harpsichord. I think it's such a cool instrument. It's very strange. I never pretend that it's anything else other than what it is. I mean, I think compared to the piano, it's quite limited, but maybe it shouldn't be compared to the piano anyway. It's just its own instrument, and it's so wonderful in its way. I play, I try to play quite a bit of contemporary music, although of course I'm looking for things that I find are accessible and communicative and interesting to me, not just anything. And this piece is definitely one of my favorite new pieces, particularly because Baptiste Romain, the composer, is such a young guy. He's probably 24 now, 25, really young. So I'm happy to be able to do something that's really fresh, to play Bach on the one hand or William Byrd, and then on the other hand, give the stage to really, really contemporary voices. I find it very exciting.
Well, you know that Georges Braque and Picasso and Miro and James Joyce and T.S. Eliot and all the modernists, uh, one of the main things they did is they eliminated completely the sense of time, space being linked together as it was in the Renaissance, you know, where depth, where something was smaller than bigger, it meant that the smaller thing was far away. And what Picasso and Braque and many more did, they took away the depth of things and spread it all on one place. And I think you have it here, but again, what I find really extraordinary here is the sense that you write a piece like this, and it's only for the harpsichord. I cannot hear it on any other, or maybe on a very badly tuned piano, maybe, you know. By the way, if you say that the harpsichord is limited, Gustav Leonhard is going to come out and bite your nose. He said that, as you probably know, that harpsichord is the most dynamic of all instruments, and he refused to play the piano because he said the piano, everything is done for you. You don't have to do anything; it's all done. So I don't know what he said about
I'm the last person you have to convince about how great the harpsichord is. I think it's a fantastic instrument, and I'm completely happy with it. I think a piano is simply a better invention. I mean, the range of expressivity is easier, it's bigger, it's wider, you can do more things, you can play much more repertoire. It's just, of course, a newer invention, and it solves all sorts of technical problems that the harpsichord has. But that's why I said already, I don't think really a comparison is necessary. I think there's two instruments. One is a piano, and it's a wonderful invention, and the other one is the harpsichord, and it stands for on its own right. I don't think apology is needed on the.
No.
And also, if you think about it, all the music of Bach that we are used to now hear on the piano was never meant to be played on the piano anyway.
He hated the fortepiano. He hated
it. Was just invented. The piano, as we know it, was invented in 1732, and Bach died 15 years later.
1750, yeah.
Right. So he actually never owned a piano, and all his keyboard.
But he did play it. He did play it.
Yeah. He heard about it. I can't imagine how good the piano that he played must have been. I mean,
it wasn't the piano as we know it. You know, it was the fortepiano, not the pianoforte.
Yeah, of course.
You had to have the little. Yeah, you had to have the little midget to bring back the. Once you played it, somebody had to bring it back. No, I'm joking. I do believe that what you say is the exact way to think about it. You know, they're two completely different instruments.
By the way, in terms of the mechanism of these two instruments, they're also quite different. The harpsichord, it looks the same. There's a keyboard and there are strings, but when you press the key, what happens is that a little plectrum goes up and plucks if this is the string, this finger, then the plectrum just goes ping and plucks it. It's like a guitar, basically. And in the piano inside there's a hammer. So when I press the key down, the hammer goes up and goes. So the piano, let's say, is more a percussive instrument, while the harpsichord is a plucked instrument, like harp, like guitar. Yeah, so in a way, it's almost like two different instrument families. It's not the same. It looks similar, but it has very little in common.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Tamar, obviously, we can sit and listen more and more and more, but I would like, I think, to allow you to prepare. I believe that you are leaving to Paris in a couple of hours, or
Right.
in 5-6 hours. So, what would you like to let us listen as the last piece of this evening?
Can you show me what you have here?
Yeah.
Let's see.
No, 11 we have nothing. We have, yeah, you can go back. We have Scarlatti.
Maybe
That's not a
how
bad.
about something completely different?
Yes.
I'm thinking of this. I told you about my friends in Basel who do these crossover concerts with medieval music and
Right.
pop and jazz and stage and theater and dance and all these things. Anyway, there was a year or two ago, there was a Vivaldi festival, and music was Vivaldi, but the setup was contemporary, more like jazz club presentation and stuff like this. And at the end of the festival, my friend, the director, wanted to have a big party, a big dance party, and she asked whether I would be willing to compose a piece based on Vivaldi, but that is really for the dance floor. And I took the challenge and came up with this little track. I hope you're not offended by dance music. I mean, proper electronic dance music. What I did, I took a piece from Vivaldi's Stabat Mater and just dissected it. I took little motifs, electronic keyboards, and then I had my friend Andreas sing parts of it, and then I mixed it all in the computer, and the result is right here. Shall we listen to it?
Yes. One of the listeners here is not tuned in. I have no idea who it is, but I see that
Okay.
only 4. One of you is not. I don't know who it is, but I think we'll have to.
Oh, here it is. 505. We have it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, may I?
Vivaldi mix. The
Here we go.
Red Priest going crazy.
Okay.
And that was Stabat Mater Dolorosa Ballando, I guess. But it was, I must say, I felt like dancing. Okay,
Yeah,
well,
this is really good.
yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Mm.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And we're really looking forward for the next time you are with us. What are your programs now? Paris and then?
Paris, Poland, Basel, Vienna again. I don't remember. What's the next?
Okay, so maybe we can try and think about meeting again around February, if that kind of might be working out.
That would be fun.
Okay, fantastic. I thank you very much. It was really an outstanding evening, very surprising and lovely and musical and enchanting. And I'm really grateful for tennis for having let you go. And I'm sure that tennis lost a lot, but we gained a lot and music gained a lot. And thank you very much for being with us. Thank you all for being with us.
Thank you all for listening, for taking the time to log in and listen to the music. Hope you enjoyed it. And I hope we meet again.
I'm sure we will. Thank you very much. And thanks a lot from Sophia, where minds meet online. And tonight we met a mind, a hand, and a beautiful piece of music, and a very, very interesting person. Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.